The 1996 draft was one of the most important and loaded draft classes in NBA history. Led by big names such as Allen Iverson, Steve Nash, and Ray Allen, this draft would give the NBA 10 future All-Stars, 3 future MVPs, and would also give us one of the biggest steals we have ever seen. As in that 1996 draft room, a teenage Kobe Bryant would sit back and watch as all 12 of the NBA's lottery teams from that year decided to pass on the risky high school prospect until finally Kobe was selected by the Charlotte Hornets. And yes, this would become one of the biggest steals the NBA has ever seen, but of course, the robbery of Kobe Bryant did not come when he was picked. It came when the Los Angeles Lakers traded for him. After that trade, of course, Kobe Bryant would go on to become a 5-time champion, 18-time All-Star, 11-time member of the first team All-NBA, and a league MVP. There is no question that by the time his NBA career was over, the Black Mamba had established himself as the face of an entire generation of basketball players. This, of course, was due in large part to Kobe's incredible talent and relentless work ethic, but it's also obvious that playing for the Lakers, undoubtedly the NBA's most popular franchise, also played a huge role, which of course begs the question, what if Kobe Bryant was never traded to the Lakers? How much would his career change? How much would the league change? Well, as you're about to find out, the NBA as a whole would change drastically. So what's up guys, Mike here, and before we jump into this, I just want to say I hope you enjoy this what if, and if you do, make sure to subscribe to this channel and make sure to go follow me on Twitch because I am going to start streaming there very soon. With that said, this what if scenario is of course going to be a long video because Kobe had a long career, which means I'm going to really start things in the 2001 season because that's when the actual seasons start to change and get interesting. To give you a quick summary of what happened between the 1996 draft and the 2001 season though, let's begin right with the summer of 1998 where this what if gives us our first drastic move, because in the 1997 season, Kobe plays well in Charlotte, but he's just not happy. In real life, the reason that so many teams passed on Kobe was because his family, his agent, and even Adidas put it out there that Kobe wanted to play in a big market to improve his brand, and if he was drafted by a small team, he might not play for that team and instead go play in Italy. In this scenario, Kobe does not go play in Italy, but he does make it clear after his rookie season that he's unhappy playing in Charlotte, and so the Hornets look to trade him. This means that in a history-changing 3-team deal, Charlotte basically trades Kobe to the Celtics and get Marcus Camby from the Raptors, while the Celtics trade 2 top 6 picks, which means Chauncey Billups becomes a Raptor. So yes, Kobe will not become a Laker, but he does get his wish to play in a huge basketball market for the Boston Celtics. That is absolutely insane, and moving on, let's speed things up. So just know that the Lakers trade for Jerry Stackhouse in 1998, Paul Pierce is taken 7th by the Kings, and Dirk is taken 9th by the Celtics in the 1998 draft. Baron Davis is taken 3rd by the Timberwolves, and Rip Hamilton is taken 6th by the Celtics in the 1999 draft, and now we're good to jump to the beginning of the 2001 season. Which brings us to the 2001 season, and finally Kobe Bryant and the Boston Celtics become relevant. They win an extra 17 games and finish as the 2nd seed in the East. Meanwhile, Baron Davis begins to play at an all-star level while Paul Pierce leads the Sacramento Kings to the top seed in the West. But the Lakers still cruise to the NBA Finals, so no change there. That means the 2001 season ends in a classic Celtics vs Lakers championship, but this one isn't even close, as a prime Shaq cannot be stopped, while Kobe and Dirk just aren't experienced enough to close out a championship. And now we are at the 2001 draft, and because the Detroit Pistons lost an extra 9 games in the regular season, they wind up with the 3rd pick, which means Tyson Chandler becomes a Piston. As for Joe Johnson, he ends up on the Denver Nuggets instead of the Boston Celtics, and the off offseason does give us one big-time trade, as the Celtics, who are loaded with forwards, don't need Antoine Walker but do need a point guard, which means Boston ships Walker to the Sacramento Kings in exchange for Andre Miller, and now it's the 2002 regular season. The story of the 2002 regular season is the downfall of the Los Angeles Lakers, who despite finishing 4th in the West lose an extra 7 games as they begin to seriously miss Kobe. On the other hand, Baron Davis becomes a first-time All-Star for the Timberwolves, and with obvious help from superstar Kevin Garnett, the Wolves make the Western Conference Finals before losing to the Kings. In the finals, the Kings would be met by none other than the Boston Celtics, who watch as Kobe torches defender after defender on the way to his first championship. And speaking of eras, a new one is about to be formed in Cleveland as the Cavs luck into the #1 pick, which means, yes, Yao Ming becomes a Cleveland Cavalier, and sure, Houston does lose out on Yao in this draft, but they end up getting Amari Stoudemire, which is a pretty great consolation prize. Moving along, the offseason brings us another game-changing move, as it has become obvious to the Lakers that Jerry Stackhouse is not the replacement they need for Kobe. And luckily in Orlando, Tracy McGrady is not happy with his current situation but would love to team up with Shaq. So T-Mac demands a trade, and the Lakers do what the Lakers do, moving Jerry Stackhouse and 2 first-round picks for Tracy McGrady. None of that matters though for the 2003 season, because the Boston Celtics are just on another level. Again, this what if is long, and so to save time, just know that the Celtics win a record-breaking 73 games and don't choke away this historic season in the finals, as they beat the Spurs in 6 games to cap off Kobe's first MVP season. And now we are in the famous 2003 draft, and because the Cavs did win more games with Yao Ming, they no longer receive the first pick. That goes to the Clippers, and yes, LeBron James joins the big market he wants in LA, but in a different jersey. And speaking of different jerseys, a lot of changes take place here, as Carmelo Anthony is selected by the Heat, Chris Bosh goes to the Nuggets, and Dwayne Wade replaces LeBron in Cleveland, while also giving the Cavs a pair of young stars. And like I said, this was a summer of big moves, and they continue in the offseason, as the Clippers go out and sign Gilbert Arenas. As for the Lakers, they still don't have the championship roster they want around Shaq, and are able to sign Jason Kidd away from the Nets in free agency. But unfortunately, in the 2004 season, the pair of T-Mac and Kidd actually proves to be a downgrade from Kobe and Gary Payton. As for Gary Payton, he ends up on the Memphis Grizzlies, who finished as the Western Conference top team. If this seems random, it kind of is, and the Timberwolves agree, as they take down the Grizzlies on the way to the finals, setting up a championship matchup against the Boston Celtics. Before we get to that though, we have to mention that the Clippers are so bad that not even LeBron can save them, so it's Dwayne Wade who wins Rookie of the Year for the 5th seeded Cavs. Back to the NBA Finals. This series proves to be a battle, as Kevin Garnett finishes with historic averages of 32 points, 14 rebounds, and 4 blocks a game. The Celtics, however, just prove to be too much, and this time, it's Dirk Nowitzki who carries his team through some of their most pressure-filled moments. Now, we're looking at the 2004 draft, where
the Los Angeles Clippers select Dwight Howard.
Sure, Dwight Howard does get a lot of crap these days, but we have to remember that in real life, the man is a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year and a 5-time member of the first-team All-NBA. So, adding Dwight to a Clippers roster that already has a young LeBron is massive. But for now though, it's the offseason, and remember, originally the Nets were able to trade for Vince Carter because he was unhappy in Toronto. However, because the Nets are no longer a contender, Vince still pairs with Jason Kidd, but now they're playing together on a loaded Lakers roster. Staying out west, the Kings sign Steve Nash instead instead of the Suns, and immediately the 2005 season shows how incredibly valuable Nash is because Sacramento finishes as the second seed in the West as Nash throws dime after dime to Paul Pierce and their supporting cast. As for the rest of the West, Chris Bosh and Joe Johnson helped the Nuggets earn the 5th seed, while LeBron and Rookie of the Year Dwight Howard finished 4th. But it is the Lakers, though, who are the top dogs this year behind their loaded roster of Shaq, T-Mac, Vince Carter, and Jason Kidd. LA easily makes it to the NBA Finals, where they face the Celtics, who are defending NBA champions but are now outmatched. In the end, the Lakers are just too loaded this season and nobody could seem to stop Shaq, so it is the Los Angeles Lakers who are the 2005 NBA champions. Fast forwarding to the 2005 draft, Chris Paul does not become a Hornet and instead is exiled to the Charlotte Bobcats. As for the rest of this draft, Andrew Bynum ends up in Phoenix and Danny Granger becomes a Rocket. Making our way to the 2006 offseason, Ray Allen does not re-sign with the Sonics, but instead links up with LeBron on the Clippers, and the Suns trade away Sean Marion to the Nuggets in exchange for Nene, salary fillers, and a first-round pick, which means we're now in the 2006 season where a young LeBron does win his first MVP while leading the Clippers to a staggering 72 wins. But at the end of the day, the veteran Spurs are able to take home the championship over the Pistons, which means, of course, Kobe and the Celtics did not reach the NBA Finals, which does not exactly make Kobe happy. For now, though, it's the 2006 draft. Really, there are only 2 picks that matter here, as Seattle selects Brandon Roy and the Cavaliers steal Rajon Rondo with the 23rd pick. Moving on into the offseason, the Cavs are not done yet as they continue their string of robberies when they trade Anderson Varejao to Portland for Zach Randolph. The Celtics listen to Kobe and make a move for Rashard Lewis, giving up Kendrick Perkins and Tony Allen in the process, and we arrive at the 2007 regular season. In this season, Boston's offseason moves do end up working out as they retake the top seed in the East and are able to make it back to the NBA Finals. As for the West, the Nuggets continue to impress as Chris Bosh solidifies himself as a #1 option on a somewhat contender. Although, again, the Clippers are just too talented as LeBron wins his 2nd MVP and leads his team to a sweep over the Nuggets in the 2nd round. In the Western Conference Finals, though, it's a different story as, again, the veteran Spurs in San Antonio knock off the Clippers and proceed to beat Boston on the way to their 2nd straight title. At this point, it should be obvious that both LeBron and Kobe are not happy, but for now, let's look at the 2007 draft. In this draft, it is the Milwaukee Bucks who lost 2 more games last season, which means they get the #1 pick, Greg Oden, a man who I'm pretty sure knocked on my door the other day and tried to sell me insurance. To be fair, he was pretty convincing and I did buy it, but as for his NBA basketball career, as we all know, that's not exactly going to work out. Which means the real prize in this draft comes at pick number 2, and yup, Brooklyn fans, it looks like you aren't going to completely sell out your future for picks years from now and make the Boston Celtics a potential future dynasty because you have a superstar to build around in Kevin Durant. Sorry, Danny Ainge, go pick on some other stupid franchise like the Kings, or yeah, in real life, I'm almost 100% certain it would be the Kings. Finishing up this draft, Al Horford goes to Seattle, Joakim Noah heads to Portland, and Mike Conley becomes a Hornet. As for the offseason this year, the Cavaliers find themselves very busy as they are able to sign an all-star point guard in Chauncey Billups. This means that Rajon Rondo is expandable, so the Cavs make a huge move and trade for Pau Gasol in a package that includes Rondo and Zach Randolph. Ending this offseason, Kobe does get his wish as the Celtics tremendously upgrade at the center position. In order to do this, Boston moves Jermaine O'Neal and multiple first-round picks to Minnesota to get Kevin Garnett. And so, after the the dust settles, the 2008 regular season leaves us with 4 top contenders who we'll get to in a second. Because for now, let's celebrate the fact that Chris Paul leads the Charlotte Bobcats to the playoffs for the first time in their franchise's history, as CP3 also becomes a first-time All-Star. As for those contenders, in the West, the Clippers continue to roll as LeBron and Dwight approach the prime of their careers. The Sacramento Kings dominate night in and night out as Steve Nash refuses to age while Paul Pierce puts together a monster season. The Kings will actually get past the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals, where they are met by the winner of the Eastern Conference Finals, a series that features the Cavaliers and a Celtics team that is fresh off of breaking the wins record for a second time, as Kobe is awarded with his second MVP. And unfortunately for Cleveland, Dwayne Wade suffers knee problems this year, and so the Celtics demolish the Cavs and now to put up yet another championship banner in a bloodbath against the Kings. This series would go to 7 games, but in the end, home court advantage combined with the almost psychotic defense of Kevin Garnett lifts the Celtics to another championship victory. Now we can move on to the 2008 draft. Phoenix wins the lottery, and so the addition of Derrick Rose marks a new era for the Suns. And because the Suns are rebuilding, they look to move Andrew Bynum. Meanwhile, in Miami, Carmelo wants to win now, so the Heat move their 3rd pick, aka Kevin Love, to the Suns in exchange for Andrew Bynum. Moving down, the Knicks land a superstar in Russell Westbrook, and DeAndre Jordan is picked by Charlotte. In the offseason, Phoenix continues to rebuild as they trade Nene to the Spurs in exchange for George Hill and a 1st-round pick. The Heat also stick with their plan to win now and sign Baron Davis, a move that will backfire horribly. In fact, the results of that move can be seen almost instantly in the 2009 season, because the Heat only win 25 games, which is somehow 2 less than the Suns, who are supposed to be rebuilding. As for the winners this year, the Celtics continue their dominance, but they're only the 2nd seed in the East, as behind an MVP season from Dwayne Wade on top of the all-star level play of Yao, Chauncey, and Pau, it is the Cavs who finish first during the regular season, and it is the Cavs who reach the NBA Finals. In these finals, both Wade and LeBron would go off. The 2 future Hall of Famers would dominate on both ends of the court, and in a way, ended up canceling each other out. This meant that the championship would be decided based on which team's supporting cast played better, and unfortunately for the Cavs, Yao would miss the finals with an injury, and so the Los Angeles Clippers are your 2009 NBA champions. And now we're moving to the 2009 draft, where Miami actually lands the 1st pick, and
The Miami Heat select Blake Griffin.
however, Melo is fed up with this situation and demands a trade, which is fine with Miami. They sent him to the Nets in exchange for pick number 6 and salary fillers, and with that pick, they paired Blake Griffin with Steph Curry, giving us a future lethal duo and potential dynasty. As for the other big changes in this draft, Phoenix continues their rebuild by taking James Harden at number 2, DeMar DeRozan ends up in New Orleans, and the Celtics solidify their front court with Taj Gibson. Wrapping up the summer, the Cavs give us our only big offseason move, as Cleveland uses a package centered around JJ Hickson to trade back for Zach Randolph. Now it's the 2010 regular season, where even with the addition of Melo, the Nets still only managed to win 26 games, as the combination of Melo and KD just does not work. In the West, the Rockets have basically the complete opposite season, as Amari proves to be an absolute force, while Danny Granger puts up almost 25 points a night. Again though, the combination of LeBron and Dwight is overpowered, so it's the Clippers that are the West top dogs. Back to the East, the Celtics do earn the 2nd seed, but only win 55 games. Instead, it's the Cleveland Cavaliers who overshadow everyone, as Wade continues to star while Zach Randolph makes his 1st All-Star team. This means that the NBA Finals are a rematch of last year, but this time, it's Wade's supporting cast that steps up, as Pau gets the best of Dwight Howard, while Chauncey Billups knocks down several clutch shots on the way to the city of Cleveland's 1st championship in 5,000 years. Congratulations, Cleveland, but but a furious Kobe Bryant would attempt to force some big moves. And so the Celtics make a blockbuster 3-team trade where Boston ends up sending Kevin Garnett to New Jersey and their 2011 first-round pick to Detroit. The Nets send their number 5 pick, aka DeMarcus Cousins, to the Pistons, and Detroit gives Boston Tyson Chandler and their first-round pick, aka Paul George. Looking deeper into this draft, the Warriors do not have Steph, but do have the first pick, and so
The Golden State Warriors select John Wall.
closing up this draft, Gordon Hayward goes 10th to New Orleans, and we're fast forwarding to the 2011 offseason. As we all know, LeBron James was the prize of free agency this year, but he decides to stay in LA because he's done pretty well there. Meanwhile, in Cleveland, Dwayne Wade re-signs with the Cavs. As for the actual changes, Chris Bosh heads to the Nets to play with Carmelo and Durant, making an interesting big three in New Jersey, while Paul Pierce signs with the Celtics to link up with Kobe and Dirk. Back to the West, Joe Johnson also leaves the Nuggets, and Jason Kidd leaves the Lakers to do the same. That's gonna make the Rockets a legitimate title contender, and finishing up this offseason, Steve Nash signs with the Clippers to try and win his first ring. Now we're at the 2011 regular season, and Boston is still not content with their roster, while Chris Paul makes it known that he wants out. And wouldn't you know it, the Celtics have trade assets in Paul George, Taj Gibson, and Rashard Lewis, so they make the trade for Chris Paul. Paul fits seamlessly into the Celtics roster as Boston ends up with an almost casual, for them, 72 wins. In New Jersey, the Big Three experiment actually works out very well, as the Nets need only a few games to build chemistry and finish the year with 66 wins. However, in the playoffs, Wade proves that experience matters, as it's Cleveland who earns the honors of getting destroyed by a ridiculous Boston team in the Eastern Conference Finals. The West gives us the biggest surprise team of the year as Derrick Rose shocks everyone and becomes the youngest MVP in NBA history, while the Suns win 68 games. In the Western Conference Finals, Rose continues to shine while Kevin Love and James Harden step up big time in a shocking upset over the Clippers. In the end though, Kobe jumps at the chance to add another ring to his collection, and luckily for him, Dirk just so happens to actually catch on fire on the way to shooting 60% from the field while averaging 31 points per night as the Celtics wrap up the finals in 5 games. Advancing on, we're at the 2011 draft, and Kyrie joins Al Horford in OKC, and the Miami Heat find themselves needing a small forward without Melo, and so, yup, the Heat now have Steph Curry, Blake Griffin, and Kawhi Leonard. With that said, yes, Jimmy Butler becomes one of the biggest steals in NBA history, as the Pistons grab him at the end of the first round using the pick they got from the Celtics. Moving on, in the 2012 regular season, the Celtics don't seem to mind much, as it is Boston and the Nets who are the only two teams in the East to break 50 wins as Boston cruises to the Eastern Conference Finals, while the Nets struggle against a young and exciting Heat team that consists of Steph Curry, Blake Griffin, and rookie Kawhi Leonard. But for now, with the brutal front court of Bosh and Garnett and the pure scoring ability of Durant and Melo, the Nets are able to fend off the up-and-coming Heat. This series would take a toll on them though, and the Celtics take advantage, easily winning the Eastern Conference Finals while giving themselves yet another chance at a ring. Meanwhile, in the West, the Suns are the only team to hit 50 wins, but Derrick Rose does suffer a massive knee injury that derails their playoff run. This means that the Western Conference is wide open, and you'd think the Clippers would jump at the chance to reach the NBA Finals again, but they end up losing to the Houston Rockets, who go all the way to the NBA Finals. In this series against Boston though, Houston's dream season finally comes to an end as the Celtics are just too good, which means Kobe ends up matching Michael Jordan with ring number 6. And guys, yes, because the last 3 seasons of Kobe's career include 2 injury-filled years and one farewell tour, we are going to end this what if at the end of the 2013 season, which means the 2012 draft is our last draft in this scenario, and it just so happens that Detroit fell enough to win the lottery, and so Anthony Davis teams up with DeMarcus Cousins and Jimmy Butler to form a big three in what will certainly be an NBA title contender very soon. Moving down in the draft with the third pick, OKC ends up with Bradley Beal, and from there, Dallas takes Andre Drummond, Charlotte grabs Damian Lillard, and it's now our final offseason where Miami makes a huge move in a complicated deal that ends up with them basically getting Dwight Howard in exchange for Andrew Bynum. Meanwhile, out west, the Steve Nash experiment didn't give the Clippers what they needed, so LeBron recruits Goran Dragic in hopes of reaching another finals. Guys, we are finally here, the last year in this what if, the 2013 season. And unfortunately for Kobe, his last season as a healthy player does not end up in his favor. The Celtics do make the Eastern Conference Finals, but in that series, they are taken down by the Heat, whose young roster is starting to fulfill their insane upside. Also, we have to give some big credit to Dwight Howard here, as he proves to be a difference maker this season, both in the East and the West. Because in the West, a Clippers team without Dwight barely manages to win 50 games and is simply outplayed in the Western Conference Finals by the Spurs. However, in the 2013 Finals, youth does prevail. Steph drops in 3 after 3. Kawhi takes a leap and becomes a force on both sides of the court. Blake proves to be unstoppable when driving to the basket, and again, Dwight comes up huge as his championship experience helps his young teammates remain composed in the game's most pressure-packed moments. So just like in real life, the 2013 NBA champions are the Miami Heat. And there we go, guys. That wraps up what if Kobe Bryant was never traded to the Lakers. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're still around and actively listening at this point, thank you so much for supporting. I really do hope you like this video. It took me so long to make. I'm just glad I'm finally going to be able to start putting out consistent videos on this channel and my second channel. So again, if you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe, and if you are subscribed, you're the man. We all know it. And as always, have an awesome day. And a new thing we're gonna start doing here are 2 videos right here on the screen right now that I think you'll enjoy. If you haven't already seen, click them, go watch them, enjoy, and if you don't, it's cool too. Just thank you for watching. Have a great night.